Good morning. Good morning. So, last week we talked about the Father. And I gave you guys interesting little tidbits, you know what I'm saying? So, a lot of times when we get into the ministry and we start to work on what it is we're going to say and do, a lot of times we sit there and we work through the message the whole week. And prior to last week's message, Pastor Jay asked if I wanted to do back-to-back. So, short story, last week, the message that was there was actually the second message that I had come to me. The first message was the one that we're getting this week, but it ended up going in reverse order for some odd reason, because God likes to lay things out for you a little bit different ways. So, where we're going to start today, y'all stand for the scripture. Coming out of the New Living Testament, 2 Corinthians 5 and 21. It's on the screen. 2 Corinthians 5:21, New Living Testament. For God made Christ, who never sinned, to be the offering for our sin, so that we could be made right with God through Christ. These are the words of the Lord, and they've already been blessed. You may be seated. So, quick story. Prior to getting up here today, I was tossing and turning on how this message was supposed to be delivered. And I told Pastor that before we started that I was a little bit perplexed because I couldn't figure out where it was supposed to go. I've been chewing on it really for 2 weeks now and how it's supposed to be delivered. But when I say that God always has a path for you, I sat here and I listened and everything fell into place. So what we're talking about last week, we talked about God being the Father, right? Mm-hmm. If any of y'all know my wife ever had her come up and pray, she always starts and tells everybody that Jesus is her homeboy. Mm-hmm. Jesus is her homeboy. I assert that Jesus is my brother. There are a few verses that go to that. So we're going to start with John 20:17. It'll be up on the screen as well. And these are all coming out of the ESV. Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." See, this is when the resurrection was going on, and Mary and the disciples were around, and he had popped back up, and they looked at him, and he wasn't quite the person that they had seen, and she wanted to go and hold him, but he was telling me that my job's not over. Don't hold me back. My job's not over. But he calls people and he tells them that go to my brothers and say to them. We all understand in the Bible that they don't mention his sibling brothers that much. We know who they are. But he says go to my brothers. And in this reference, he's not talking about just those two siblings, but he's talking about all the disciples, right? If you go to Hebrews 2:11, it says, for he who sanctifies, Hebrews 2:11 out of the ESV again, it says, for he who sanctifies and those who are sanctified all have one source. That is why he is not ashamed to call them brothers. Okay, so the author of Hebrews says that he who sanctifies, who are all sanctified, have one source. So that means that everybody who is saved has one source, right? Yes. And that is why he's not ashamed to call them brothers. So that means if you are saved, Jesus is your brother. It's a pretty simple concept here, right? Mm-hmm. So Romans 8:29, it goes and says, for those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. Again, we're talking about Jesus and the idea that he was predestined, which means we already knew. You know that when Jesus came to earth, they already knew before things even started that he was going to die for our salvation. So this was something that was already predetermined. But he said that he's going to be the firstborn son. You know, you look at families a lot, the firstborn son, it's a lot that goes with that. But he says he's going to be the firstborn among many brothers. Again, when they say brothers, it is not just the males. They're talking about brothers and sisters, but the family members. Then lastly, it says Mark 3:34. And looking about at those who sat around him, he said, Here are my mother and my brothers, speaking to his disciples. We know that in his disciple camp, he had 12 disciples sitting around. His mother was there, and he says, to my mother and his brothers. So again, he's referring to the disciples as his brothers. So I assert that Jesus is my brother. Now, we're saying that Jesus is my brother. We go into the definition of brotherhood, right? The relationship between brothers. Generally, it says it's a shared parent. The bonds of brotherhood. The feeling of kinship, the closeness to a group of people or all people. An association, society, or community of people linked by a common interest, religion, or trade. But, I don't know, any of y'all got brothers? Any of y'all got brothers? All right. For y'all that don't have brothers, Jesus is your brother. But for all of you that don't got brothers, I grew up in my family. My brother was, he is 18 years older than me. So by the time that I was 2, he was already moving out of the house. So I didn't really grow up with my brother, but yet I still looked up to him. Not just because he's 6'7", but because I looked up to him. There's a reality when you're little and you look at people that they're older than you, you just immediately say, oh, okay, that's my big brother, my big brother, my big brother. So my big brother was a basketball player, he was 6'7", he had his own life, he was doing his own thing, he had moved to California, and I didn't really know him growing up, but I was like, oh yeah, I got a big brother, my big brother, and that's just what you would say. So most people, they generally look up to their brothers. It's just a natural thing. And when they look up to their brothers, the brothers generally lead in some degree. But we do understand that because you're related, because that person is related to you and they're your brother, that doesn't mean that they are brotherly, right? So brotherly is the important part that we need to get into. And the definition of brotherly is a characteristic of appropriate or for brothers or fraternal. They have a brotherly bond, but it's built around showing affection, being affectionate, showing feelings of kindness, loyalty, things that you would expect to show. Brotherly or sisterly means that they are trying to do the best for you, right? Now, when we talk about brothers, we all know that they have a family. So when you talk about families, there's some kind of family rules that go along with that, right? So as a family, there's generally a hierarchy in the family. You're the oldest, you kind of get to do more things than everyone else. You get a lot more privileges, but you also get a lot more responsibility. So in that family, there's that hierarchy. Their jobs, though, when you sit there and look at families, a lot of times you have jobs that the boys have to do, jobs that the girls have to do. Like with my son, his jobs are taking out the trash. He can do a good job at it. But his job is taking out the trash and stuff. My daughter, she does the dishes. But he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. And so we get to fussing at one, and then we're looking at you fussing at the other, and this, that, and the other. So it's got to be, there's a job and a hierarchy. But what we know that is natural is that brothers always want to be the protectors. I'm the little brother in my family. I'm the baby. This is why I'm spoiled out of my mind. But no matter what, you're not messing with my sister. You're just not. My sister's 8 years older than me. We were walking to 7-Eleven one day. Some car pulled up, trying to holler at her, and I'm like, what you want? Dude like, hey, be shorter. Hey, pull out of the way, little man. Ain't nobody talking to you. Look, she ain't saying nothing, so you back up. I'm like 8 years old, talking tough. The guy that pulled up in the car could drag me up down the road, but that's what we do. We just brothers, we're protectors. There are certain expectations that come with being a brother. Being a brother, there's certain expectations. You are expected to take care of people. When I leave the house every morning, my son give me a hug and a kiss, I say, take care of the ladies. And he listens to me and say, yes, sir. I don't know what he's going to do. He's still small as I don't know what, but he said, yes, sir. Because it's an expectation that you want to have. Growing up, a lot of times you have brothers and sisters, and a lot of times whatever one is doing something, they always say, can't you be just like him? Can't you be like her? And their expectations, because when one does well, then the other's supposed to do well. Why can't you be like your sister? Why can't you be like your brother? That stuff starts to go. But there are different sets, like I said, of rules and privileges, and it's never been fair. My sister will tell you to this day, the way that we were raised is 2 different households. Guys just come to see my sister, they come knock on the door, I'm sitting on the steps, waiting on them like this. Then I go to the door and stand at the door, what you want? Your sister home. Yeah. Dad! Some boy at the door. So dad come up, and my dad was 6'3.5", big guy. He would come up with his little revolver, loading his bullets while he's talking to the boy. Boy be shaking in his pants. I just standing laughing. Because we had different expectations. The girl came to see me, they let the girl in the door and just tell her to go see me. It was totally different. Totally different. The reality is that those privileges and those rights and responsibilities do change. But see, when I looked at what other people said about brothers and sisters, like one of the things that from the time we're born, our brothers and sisters are our collaborators, co-conspirators, our role models, and our cautionary tales. Understand that there's something that goes on with the brother bond, sister bond, the siblings. You guys get together, you do sneaky stuff together. And you make sure that the secret dies with you sometimes. Mm-hmm. Either that or you immediately tell on the other one. But then you hold each other. It says, I don't believe an accident of birth makes people sisters or brothers. It makes them siblings. Gives them mutuality of parentage. Sisterhood and brotherhood is a condition people have to work at. That's Maya Angelou. It takes two men to make one brother. It's kind of weird, right? You can't be by yourself and be somebody's brother if you're by yourself. Brother and sister relationships are like Tom and Jerry. They tease and irritate each other, knock each other down, but they can't live without each other. My two littles, I promise you, that all they do is bug each other all day, but as soon as one of them's gone, they're asking about the other one the entire time. He's my most beloved friend, my bitterest rival, my confidant, and my betrayer, my sustainer and my dependent, and scariest of all, my equal. That one described me and my sister to a T. Because I didn't call my sister for anything except when I needed to borrow money, or I needed to take me somewhere, or because mom and dad were yelling at me. I promise you, I hated her when she was in the house. As soon as she moved out, I called her every day. I wish you come home. All they do is fuss about you. After a girl is grown, her little brothers, now her protectors, seem like big brothers. I don't know about y'all, but a lot of times, my daughter right now, I said to my sister about my sister being older than me, she's like, wait a minute, you're older than Auntie Rob? You're not older than Auntie? I said, no, she's my big sister. She's like, are you sure? Because I act like I'm her big brother. And I guess because my daughter thinks I'm old, but whatever. But understand that being brotherly is usually about a union of some common interest. Growing up, you had your friends that you used to hang out with because you lived in the same neighborhood. When I played football, our common interest was being on the football field. You had to make sure that you took care of each other because in order for you to win, you had to take care of your brothers. Everybody had to do their job. My first time really getting into a brotherly organization and got into fraternity, all of a sudden I had 16 brothers. And I'm running around with them and it's like, oh, you can't say nothing about them. And some of my brothers were dumb as dirt. But I promise you, when I say they were dumb as dirt, I mean like they made the stupidest decisions. But I promise you, you ride with your brothers. It's just how it is. When we sat here and we got to things, I got into this bike club and we would be brothers, we riding around the nation. You trusting that the person that you're riding with from here to Oklahoma, from Oklahoma to California, has got your back the entire way that you're going. That's what brothers do. But when you have a family bond, a lot of things happen that are different. You can share a look, and you know what that look means. You guys ever played taboo before? Have you ever noticed people that really know each other win the game? Because they can come up and the word will come on the board, and they be like, you remember last week with Tina? Oh, I got you. Because they know because you share the bond. They know your mood. They know how to make you happy. They also know how to push your buttons and make you mad. They know the lines to cross, what lines not to cross. They know your strengths and weaknesses, but they also believe in tough love. The verse that I said we're standing on today is 2 Corinthians 5:21. For God made Christ, who never sinned, to be the offering for our sin, so that we could be made right with God through Christ. I talked earlier about all of the things where God was calling us his brothers. But this, God, is why you're my brother. Because your brothers, especially your older siblings, generally sacrifice for you. That's why he's my brother. See, when you look at God, God said a person who never sinned was going to give up his life for your sin. When we sit here and we talk about our brothers or our sisters, the sacrifice can't get any bigger than that. Last week we talked about the sacrifice of God, but siblings, they sacrifice too. For all y'all that raise your hands, you say you got brothers, or if you got sisters, how many times could you not go anywhere because you had to babysit? How many times was it that you had to take your little brother with you? I'm about to go to the game. Well, take your little brother with you. But Mom, take your little brother with you and you ain't going. They also were that trusted individual. We're about to go to the store, watch your brother and sister. They're the person because they're like a second parent. I promise you that my sister was my second parent. That's why she used to tell on me all the time. But when it says being a brother, and we're sitting there talking about being a brother all around, we're talking about the fact that everyone in this room is brothers and sisters. At work the other day, I was sitting down, and there's these things that happen where you go through people's paperwork, and certain students get certain accommodations. And one of the accommodations is the trusted adult. So when a child has a problem, they can go to their trusted adult. So I was reprimanding some students, brought another student in because one student was teasing another student about something that bad had happened in his life. And I went through the conversation. It was funny because the other girl told the boy he was wrong for what he did and everything else. And after that, the boy kind of understood what his problem was, so that he wanted to apologize to the person he was mean to. So I brought the boy down. He was being mean to his little guy. He sits in the room after the guy apologized. He was like, yeah, I accept your apology. But yeah, Dr. Brewer? I said, yeah. He said, can you be my trusted adult? That's where you're supposed to give me a tissue. He said, can you be my trusted adult? I said, yes. Well, sure, but I'm not your AP. Why do you want me to be a trusted adult? He said, because I feel safe when I'm around you, because I trust you. Isn't that what a trusted adult's supposed to be? And he feels that way because some kid was bullying him when he first got into school, and I checked that little boy, and then this situation, the other little boy is messing with him, I checked this little boy, so he feels like I'm going to be a savior all the time, which I won't be able to do every time because I'm not always going to be there. But the reality is that when you invest in people, that's when you become their trusted adults. Unfortunately, when you're related to somebody or you're stuck in a house with somebody and you become the trusted adult, whether you want to or not, then they start to look for you to do things. Funny thing is that your brother will see the potential in you. They know what they have in store for you. They'll sacrifice in order for you to prosper. I don't know really who needs to hear this, but this is the thing where I say that there's a divinity in things and how things got this together. Watching what was going on today, listening to how Pastor Jay was laying out things to you today, I don't know who needs to hear this, but your blessing is given to you because your brother's already been looking out. He sacrificed himself for you. So no matter what it is that you're thinking, your brother's already given you that. See, siblings are supposed to equal loyalty, but brothers, sisters, true bonds, that's the loyalty. Loyalties as brothers generally means like, I got you back. Right or wrong, I got you back. But if you're wrong, best believe we're going to talk about it later. I'm going to ride with you, but later we're going to talk about this. I'm not going to play you in front of everybody, but later we're going to talk about this because a brother and a sister is really going to make sure that what you're doing is right. Now, the thing about it that I left out about being a brother and sister is that you have to share. That means share your food. You got to hide it in the back of the fridge if you don't know when to touch it. You got to put your name on it. Sometimes that doesn't work. You know, you got to share the TV, radio, your toys, all of that stuff. You got to share. But this week, I think that when we're sitting here talking about brothers, we understand that Jesus is our brother, and Jesus would want us to give each other brotherly advice. So again, I don't know who needs to hear it, but your self-respect has got to be stronger than your feelings. I don't know what it is that you're going through in your life right now. I just know that somebody in here needs to hear that. It's something in your life that you know that no matter what, whatever needs to be done right needs to be done right. It's not about how you feel, but it's about doing it the right way. It's important to realize that you're living inside of one of your answered prayers right now while you're waiting on your next one. Understand that no matter what's going on, there's always room for gratitude. I want to caution you all that there's a past version of you right now that's super proud of how far you've come. I don't know what it is you think you got going on in your life, but you're not where you used to be. For somebody else in here, maybe they'll choose you. Maybe they won't. But it doesn't matter as long as you choose you. Give it to God. For somebody who's thinking about things, again, like I say, it's the divinity of things. In life, you have two choices. You either quit or you keep going. They both hurt. You either quit or you keep going. They both hurt. But figure out what it is that you want and get it. You got to focus on Jesus and not on that storm. I promise you that on days that things seem terrible, I turn on gospel, I turn all the way up to the top. I start singing songs just to take my mind off of everything else.
Amen.
While we're talking about brotherhood, I want to caution some of y'all about being careful. Because see, I had to learn the difference between who was in my corner and who was in my business. See, when you have people who are in your corner, you can share things with them. You can express things to them because you know that they're going to have your best interest at heart. You know that they will sacrifice to make sure that you get what you need. But when you have people in your business, you have no idea where that road's going to lead. And once you figure out the difference, I need you to remain the good person that you are, because your intentions are what you want to do. You don't ever need to change your heart. You just need to change who you give it to. Know that no matter how good a person you are, you're evil in someone's story. It's just a reality. I tell you, some people threw dirt on my name. Some people gave me my flowers. Thing is, it's all the garden to me. God provided the water and I grew from it. When we look at Samson and Delilah, y'all know the story of Samson and Delilah, right? She really feigned him to try and take him down, pretended to be in his life, pretended to love him, pushed him to the point, the brink of destruction. I pray that God will expose all the pretenders in your life. Know that Jesus is my brother and that he's yours too. Understand that he's definitely the big brother. He leads by example, sacrificing, bearing the heavy load, the trusted individual who gives you the tough love, who's always there. He's the one that you look up to, and above all, share in the salvation that he's giving you. That's it for today.